Ben, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thanks, mate.
Good to have you here, man.
You too.
It's in Adelaide, right? I mean, I've bumped in and seen you around the traps a few times. I'm like, who is this Ben guy? So it's like good to just have you on, man.
No,
hear your story, your journey of life and health and life with family and your contributions to the disability world, man. So any questions from you to start with, Damo, before we jump into it?
Hello, and thank you for coming on our podcast. And I think we've met a couple of times at some local expos, and
yeah, that's right.
So thank you.
No worries at all. Thank you.
Ben, what brings you here today, man? What's been your journey? Have you always worked in disability, or has it all been about sort of your son's health and how you jumped into that? And do you want to kind of share a little bit about that journey with us, man?
Yeah, no, I was a paramedic before Harry came along, so started working at SAS for a while, and then saw the starting of the ramping back in 08.
So 08, you were a paramedic?
Yeah, so then ended up going back to basically wanted something to be a bit easier on the back and all that sort of thing.
Yeah,
so the career for a paramedic at that time was around about 5 to 7 years. So,
yeah, right.
So I ended up going out to the oil and gas and was on the rigs at oil and gas as a paramedic and safety guy. And then later on went into mining at Beverly Uranium Mine.
You would have seen a few things as a paramedic on some of those big sites, right?
Yeah, they were pretty good jobs most of the time.
Yeah,
so it's a lot of broken bones and backs and stuff like that.
Wow.
So, but
That's the work.
yeah, it was really, really good work and a lot of downtime as well. So you got to recover quickly as well.
Meals cooked for you.
Yeah, that's right. yeah, put on a few kgs.
Yeah, so. Easy to do, I imagine.
Yes. Yeah. But and then Harry came along, and the FIFO work sort of just didn't work with Harry is coming along as well. So yeah, sort of drifted back into coming back to become a full-time carer for Harry, and then both myself and my wife just moved on from there basically.
Yeah. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your lovely son Harry, his journey, who he is as a person, and why he's on the NDIS? Yeah,
so Harry was born at 24 weeks, so due to a placenta abruption. So placenta was tearing away from the uterus wall. Emergency surgery. He spent 114 days in the hospital there.
Yeah, wow.
And then came out on his originally planned birthday.
Wow.
So then probably took another year or two to figure out that he had got the official diagnosis of cerebral palsy. So, later on, he's now back to the point where gross motor function, he's at level 4. So he's a wheelchair user. He's peg fed. And uses AAC communication. Yep.
What's AAC communication?
I always get stuffed with this, but it's using devices, augmentative, alternative communication.
Okay.
Yeah. So he uses a device. It's like a choose your own adventure type thing. Cool. So pictures on there and it says, I want, watch TV, choose the program.
Yeah. And
it just switches through the pages.
Cool.
It's also the pod is the manual version.
I think I've heard of the pod. So he's able to direct his own care, get what he needs from people, tell him yes, no, stop. And then share his attitude with the world. And maybe his bad humour if he's anything like his dad.
Oh yes, he has. He has a wicked sense of humour.
Good.
His latest thing is he calls himself the rascal.
Yeah.
He gets out of his covers and then ends up at the other end of his bed. Like we've just tucked him in. So and we walk in and you just hear him go, Rascal. So
nice.
So,
he's got to get his kicks and stuff. Family, right?
Yeah, no, he has a massive personality. So
awesome. And how old is he now?
He's 11 years old and in year 6 now. So
cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Coming from a world of, first paramedics, working pretty much with everybody else that needs help, and then moving to the world of mining, with big burly blokes and all those sorts of things, to now having a child with a relatively severe disability. How has that changed your perspective on everything from before to now?
It was pretty hard to take at the start because as a dad and as a bloke, you just want to fix things.
Of course.
And so my initial response was, rightio, what's out there to fix it? What's out there for therapies? What's out there? And that's what led into the Kids and Youth Disability Expo. It was like there was nothing here. It was there was this treatment in New Zealand and that treatment in Italy and this treatment in the UK. And it's like, well, I wanted to know what was here in South Australia to help us get through this journey. You started to grieve for stupid dreams, like, oh, my kid's never going to be an AFL football player and he's never going to play cricket for Australia. And it's like, holy hell, man, I only play B grade football myself. So the likelihood of him becoming a professional footballer is, you know, pie in the sky stuff. But you go through that whole process of the grief of the dream of the life that you thought you were going to have.
What if scenario.
That's right. And you do your head in thinking about all the what ifs. You have to deal with what's happening right now and move on from there. So
and as a father, like, you know, I have 2 disabled boys myself. One's 15, one's 11. You know, but as a parent and as a dad, you know, when your firstborn or secondborn is a son, you have all these dreams and aspirations of, you know, yay, it's a boy. You know, he's, like you just said, he's going to be a superstar at whatever he does. And then they get to being a teenager and they're still struggling like they're 8 years old. It really changes your whole perspective on everything. And there is a sense of grief that you have to go through.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like we've had to give up, both Susie and myself had to give up our careers. So we're now part-time employees from our self-employed businesses. And so it's not just that grief, then all of a sudden you put into a financial situation where you're not earning as much as what you were earning, so therefore you can't afford to do this and can't afford to that. And so in a way, the NDIS is a massive blessing for us because we wouldn't have been able to afford his $20,000 wheelchair. And that's custom built for him, for his comfort, and it's custom built for him to access the community and also be a part of day-to-day life.
And that comment right there leads us into the next question. What's the NDIS taught you as a parent, and also what's your opinion and perspective about the NDIS? Because it's full of negativity. But like you just said, you know, without them, you wouldn't have got a wheelchair for your son. You probably wouldn't have half the communication devices you've got. And for me, you know, I've made the NDIS work for me. So also, how do you make it work for you and your son?
Well, we always had the philosophy of let's make it work for our family, and whatever we get from the NDIS is on top of that or extra.
That's right, because it's not just about your son, it's about the whole family.
That's right. But not only that, is if you are relying on NDIS to survive, you're going to be fighting day in, day out, that sort of thing. Whereas if we can make sure that we are okay as a family, then the NDIS helps us, which is what they're supposed to be doing, is helping us thrive rather than just getting the bare minimum and surviving. So we've done that through our whole lifetime, and we're now to that point where we do need some extra help from the NDIS now with, you know, housing and other pieces of equipment, because we lift him, you know, 40, 50 times a day.
But he's only going to get older and bigger.
He's 25 kilos at the moment, and he's now considered a runt, basically, because his BMI of 12. So we do need that support, because, you know, lifting a ton of weight every day is starting to play havoc on our old bodies.
That's right, absolutely. And then, of course, I guess you've got those fears of what happens when I'm not able to provide the care. And you know, you want to know that he's safe no matter where he is. That's right.
And our concern is, you know, what happens if one of us breaks down? You know, then all of a sudden there's a whole lot of pressure on the other partner. And we are now looking at the future as well and future proofing the safety and the security for Harry going into
Absolutely.
that future.
And regarding the NDIS, and this might be a bit of an open-ended question, but do you think it's missing anything? Like what? Yep. Like whereabouts do you think it needs improvement?
Empathy, clarity,
yep.
And transparency.
And I'm going to add people in the positions to know what they're dealing with.
Well, yeah, I
just the ones on the other end of the phone.
Yeah,
you know, they need to have a little bit of understanding. That's what I would change.
Yeah, I think too. Like, there's so much stuff going on in my head. But there's the transparency is the big one, I think, because they have a set of rules and they have directives from above which counter the operational guidelines. And it's like, well, we're working from these operational guidelines and we've done all the reports based on the operational guidelines. And then they tell us, we've had a directive as of, October 3 last year, it's now changed. And it's like, but it's then change your operational guidelines. Be more transparent about what you are saying to us, because we're heading down one path with all the information that we have, and they're going circumventing that with directives from above. And it's like, but these are all internal documents.
Yeah, of course. Athenium Living doesn't just provide somewhere to live, they provide somewhere to grow, thrive, and belong. Click the link to speak with a member of the team to see if you're qualified for Specialist Disability Accommodation or to book a tour through one of their homes. I don't know about you, but when I ring, I would like to get the same answer that I get. But if you ring 10 times, you're going to get 10 different answers to the same question. I would rather get the same question, the same answer to the same question by 10 different people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Eddie, you have a question?
Yeah, I guess I'm just like reflecting on even what you're sharing, Ben. Like, there's definitely a tone that, as it is a provider working in the space, that there is different answers for different things, and you hear whispers of things that are said and done in the background of the system. So, yeah, it's good hearing your experience as a family member, supporting your son. As far as me, questions, let me think. Did you jump straight so when you were you first exposed to the NDIS through your son?
Yeah.
Or was it, so not really on the paramedic side of things, not so much dealings with it?
So when he came along, he was in 2013, and the NDIS started around the same time. So the paediatricians that we had at the Women's and Children's went, hey, global, he's got some delays happening. So get him onto it straight away. So
they got you straight on.
Yeah, so we never even experienced the previous, disability SA or anything like that, just straight in.
Yeah. And did you start working and doing business and looking at the ways you can be innovative in the space from the get-go, or I'm assuming the first thing was like, what does my son need, and how do we deal with that? I'm sure it just sort of organically happened, right?
Well, yeah, it's we started basically with the expo. I started that because I just wanted everyone to come to me, because I was getting sick of going to see people and providers and go, I don't like that person, that we're not gelling there, or that program's not going to work. And we're just using up funding just for meets and greets. So I started the expo so everyone could come to me, and I could find out everyone all in the one day, all under the same roof.
Yeah, so for you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And everything that we do, or everything that I do for this charity, is based comes from a very selfish place.
For sure.
And it's like, but I don't see selfishness as being a bad thing.
No, not when it comes to your own children, I think we all have a right to be a little bit selfish.
Well, I think, if we say I'm selfish, they go, oh, that's a bad negative way.
I don't think
so. But the thing is, if you say, I've got to fill my cup first before I can fill others, then they go, what Confucius say. So it's all of a sudden it's wisdom. So so everything that I do is based around, I'm finding these issues with Harry, then other people must as well.
There's
so
a need
if I can find a way to a solution to fix that, then it may work for other people, that sort of thing. So, and then from the first expo, we found that we had to be an organisation, otherwise no one's going to sponsor you. No one wants to give you grants and that sort of thing. So that's where the charity came out.
Cool. So KYD-X, just a quick run through quickly, maybe just for those listeners who aren't super aware. Do you want to share just quickly what it is, what its goal is, and its mission?
So KYD-X is a charity that we provide solutions for problems to enable people with a disability to have everyday experiences every day.
Cool. And the primary focus is the expo.
We've got the expo. We've done an accessible musical festival called Sounds and Vibes.
Nice.
We now have a project called Off the Floor Accessible Toilets, because that came from a problem with going to regular accessible toilets with Harry. We needed to change him. We'd have to take him out of his wheelchair, and there'll be nowhere but the floor of a public toilet. So,
and if you don't have a towel or a blanket, you don't really want to be laying them on the public toilet floor.
No. Well, we had the Whiz Pack, which had a blanket and disinfectant and towels and gloves and stuff, but you're still on the floor of a public toilet.
Yeah.
So that sort of thing was so we built our trailer. It's got an accessible adult size change table, what do they call them, ceiling hoist. It's got a working toilet in there, and it's all built in a trailer that I just can tow with my ute.
That's awesome.
So
it's an excuse to buy a ute.
I already had a ute. It's an excuse to keep the ute.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I like it.
I think the other problem with public accessible toilets is that word public.
Yep.
Because it pretty much allows every man and their grandma to go in there and use it, whether they've just got a big shopping trolley they don't want to leave out in the hallway, or they've got a twin pram that doesn't fit in the family room, or you go all the way down to the end of the scale and you're just a junkie trying to hide out.
Yep.
I've seen it all. And I actually got a letter from the SA Disability Companion Card last week, the people that provide the companion card. And I don't know if you've received it yet.
Yep.
But they're offering free MLAC keys to everybody on a companion card so that we can access all the key-locked public toilets around South Australia.
Yeah.
Which I think is fantastic.
Yep.
Because previously, before that, if you wanted an MLAC key, you had to approach, I think it was the local council.
What does that key do?
It's a universal key that unlocks disability wheelchair accessible toilets in public settings.
Cool.
And these ones prevent everyday Joe.
I think there's one down at Glenelg now.
Yeah, there's one in this. They're all over the place. But unless you contact the local people before you go to said area, you can't use it.
Yeah.
But now they're actually offering the key to everybody that needs it.
Yeah,
cool.
So MLAC stands for Master Locksmith Access Key.
Thanks, I couldn't remember that.
So we can get it from the Salisbury Locksmiths at Paraka. That's our local one.
Yeah.
We've got one of those as well. It's an awesome idea. So
yeah, brilliant. Do you think with the NDIS, and I could be wrong in this, but with the fundings of the NDIS being cut or changed or shifted, some of that I think is really positive because some people have taken the scheme for a bit of a ride. But with some of the cuts and I guess changes we're seeing to make it more sustainable is the wording we're seeing. Do you think that's causing problems with people like yourself who are really trying to create innovation in the NDIS? And not attracting people who want to kind of, create unique projects that are needed?
I think it's starting to allow people to collaborate more. I think there was a lot of time where people would go out one out. Like you'd talk to someone and they would go, "Oh, that sounds like a great idea. We're going to do it, and we're going to do this." And so you'd get ideas that were half cocked, or they would take the idea and run with it, and it just wouldn't work because they didn't have that passion or the foresight of what the project was supposed to be.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of now collaboration between organisations where they get together because you know, I'm only one brain.
Yes.
And if I come up with an idea, it's like, oh, it's awesome. But then they go, oh, what about this? And
how are you going to implement
so
it?
even talking with Damo about my toilets is like, I've got push button access. And it's like, yeah, but how's he going to do the push button access? So do we have to look at, you know, a button down below where they can hit it with the wheelchair to open the door, and just innovative stuff like that where you just go, oh, I've never thought of that. And it's not a bad thing. It's just that that's not your life experience. And that was one of the big things that I had to learn early on is people are not trying to be arseholes. They just
I am.
but they just don't know.
Yeah, it's just, like, but some people's experiences, they have never been exposed to a particular culture or a person with a disability, and they just have no point of reference.
Absolutely.
Experience.
And like 12 years ago, I had no idea about accessible toilets.
Yeah.
I just knew that were there.
Yeah.
Yep.
And one of the little prime examples I'll just touch on is obviously, you know, you need the button to access the toilet and all those sorts of things. But then a lot of places don't consider what type of taps to have on the sink.
Yep.
A lot of people don't consider the position of the hand dryer or the hand sanitizer pump bottle. And the biggest one that I always find slightly humorous, I guess, because I just see humor in everything, is the positioning of the button to flush the toilet. Every single toilet I go to, the push button is actually directly behind and above where the toilet sits.
Yep.
Not everybody has that option to reach that.
Yep.
And I've tried to explain to some places that it needs to be same height, but off center from the toilet. So then people in these sorts of wheelchairs can actually get to the wall where the button is to flush the toilet.
Yep.
You know, because whenever I go in there and do what I have to do, my wife then has to go in to push the button to flush the toilet for me.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, so it's just little things that a lot of people just don't even think about.
Or considered.
Because, you know, I'm certainly not graced with 5 foot long arms.
Yeah.
You know?
And in relation to just stepping back to when your son first came into the world.
Yep.
And you've got 2 sons, right?
Yes, that's right.
Awesome. When your son came in and, you know, he needed urgent medical help and now he has a disability. So if you were to look back to your younger self or to a family that's going through what you went through, maybe they're going through it right now, what would be the advice you'd give to a younger version of yourself, mate?
It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's going to be a challenge.
Yeah.
But you've been chosen.
Yeah.
I mean, that whole, you know, that whole philosophy of, you know, it's chosen these challenges and all that sort of thing, and you are that. True. It's like, but you do need help, and
the feelings are real and raw, right?
Yeah, and also tie yourselves together, like your wife and your husband. You need to be a really cool team, because only you guys know what the situation is like. You know, we put out our public persona and say, you know, how's he going? Everything's going well. You know, but he's been, you know, there was 2 times where I've had to resuscitate Harry. So he stopped breathing. We had an angel care thing, and we've gone in there and he's gone blue. And so we were lucky that we had that, and also it was just, you know, puff, and he was, what the hell was going on? He was back. So it's just a respiratory stopping thing. So, but you know, that's the stuff that you have behind the scenes and the struggles you have behind the scenes. So only you and your wife know what's going on. So make sure that you're a strong team.
Only the inner circle are really going to know where you're at.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And get help when you need it.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
just really do. So, like, personal side of things, we were really struggling last year, like with myself and my wife. So, but we've really worked together, and it's been really good.
Thanks for sharing.
So,
it's a common struggle.
Yeah, and with the disability sector, you see so many families split up just because you become carers, you become tag teamers, and you high five each other as you go through the hallway. one's going to bed, one's going for the next shift, or one's going to work, other one's coming back. So
high stress.
Yeah, it is massively high stress. You have constant concern about, will I see my kid in the morning, that sort of thing. So there's a lot of that, but it's just a matter of making sure that you do take care of yourself.
At Perfect Motion Physiotherapy, we believe that healing goes beyond treatment. It's about rediscovering the joy of movement.
Are you ready to take the next step towards renewed movement and well-being? Click the link in the description below to find out more and book a consultation with their team. And I know you're working on a project, a new emerging project, which you might want to share a little about in a minute. But I just had another question around. Sorry, David, do you have a question quickly? Go ahead, man.
Are you sure?
Yeah, please.
Okay. As a parent like yourself, I've got myself, 2 of my 3 children, and my wife are all on the NDIS. Mm-hmm. So, there's 4 of us in one house out of 5 that are all NDIS related.
Yep.
When I come to work, I can put my NDIS cap on and I can help anybody achieve anything. And as a parent, I find that there is nothing more frustrating when I'm trying to get a service for one of my children or even for my wife, and I just cannot figure it out or get it over the line. And I find that so frustrating because when I come to work, it's easy.
Yeah.
And I know obviously it's different because you are closely attached to your family members at home. But how do you find separating, NDIS Ben with Father Ben and then trying to achieve the same goals for your son that you just helped someone else do that yesterday?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, yeah, because you start thinking emotionally rather than logically.
Of course.
So when your emotions go high, your logic comes down. So you just need to sort of take the emotions out of it. And it's hard because, like, literally mid-January, I had a client who's going through ART, and we're going through ART with Harry's plan at the moment. And I'm saying, don't worry, you'll be fine. It's going to be great. The ART, it's now called.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Do you want to just share quickly what that is?
Oh, so it's the tribunal. So it's the third step of appealing.
Okay.
Yeah, appealing.
I wasn't even aware of the change.
Yeah, so it's now called the reviews tribunal instead of the whatever it was called before. Yeah, something. Yeah. So had them, and it's fine. You'll be fine. You'll be, just relax. The lawyer's there. It's going to be great. And then the next one was mine, and I'm like freaking out the night before, going, oh. So
it's scary.
It is. It's because there's so much riding on it for yourself, and so your emotions are, all right, okay. You start thinking about the what ifs again. It's like, what happens if we don't get this? What happens if this happens? What happened? And then you start freaking yourself out.
You do, and I guess when it's work related, you can, if something falters, you can just go home and be dad.
Yep.
Not worry about it, and then pick it up the next day and try and fix someone else's problem.
Yeah.
But as a parent, it's a 24/7 battle.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Cool.
In relation to being, a father and a carer and a business owner in the space, when it comes to finding supports for your son, our space has been unregulated for a lot of providers, cowboys I call them, out there doing random stuff. Not all parents are as equipped with the health background that you have to sort of navigate it as well, but they want the best for their family and their kids. What have been sort of the takeaways for you in finding a team that and I assume you found that team for your son? What's some advice you'd give?
We
dig deep.
Yeah, well, it's we follow people. So if they leave an organisation, we're not tied to an organisation. If we love that species, we will follow that species, even if it's to an organisation that previously we thought was the devil. So we would just go, well, let's just do that. And but we also found too that this is going to sound bad, but what we kept on getting new providers because they would go travelling or they would have kids or that sort of thing. So we tend to drifted towards older females or men who wouldn't leave type thing.
Yeah. They've already had their family or
their
previous career like yourself.
Yeah.
And now they're just wanting to settle into something else.
Yeah.
And they're not wanting to travel, and they've already had kids. And I don't know about you, but my sons, both my boys have had plenty of speeches, and they're fantastic. And then 6 months later, I'm having a baby, see you later.
Yep, absolutely.
And that frustrates me for my kids, because they just get into a trustworthy position with the provider.
Yeah.
And then it's gone.
Yeah. Well, the only person that's done it really well is our EP currently, and she transitioned and did back-to-backs and and buddy shifts and that, and so to the point where Harry was actually looking forward to the EP to go away so he could have time with the new EP. So it was really good the way they did that. Whereas others, like you said, Damo, they go, I'm having a baby, and then the organisation just goes, and here's your new one. And it's like, who the hell are you?
Or they say to you, sorry, we don't have anyone to offer
for that as well. Yep.
So then you have to go digging through another 10 providers.
Yep.
A little bit of an emotional roller coaster ride, hey?
It is.
At times, and frustrating, and you just got to kind of persevere and find your team, right?
Yep. Well, most of the time you just want to set and forget, and you have your routine. It's going to be Monday, it's going to be Wednesday, and it's going to be Saturday. Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, right? We're all sweet. And then when this changes, then all of a sudden, we don't have Wednesdays available. So now it's Monday, Thursday, Saturday, and now we've got to swap soccer for the other child, and we've got to do this now. So it seems like it's a little change, but it just affects the butterfly effect.
And it affects the whole family.
Absolutely.
And when you've got multiple children where one might have a disability and you've got some that are quote unquote normal, it starts to affect them as well. So you try to include them as much as you can.
Yeah.
Because you don't want them to resent you or their sibling. Because as they get older, that happens.
Oh yeah.
We're
finding that with our oldest son now. It's like when our youngest one goes, when we go out somewhere and he hasn't had enough, we tend to go, okay, let's go. And so the oldest son's like, but I don't want to go, and I want to stay here, and why is it so unfair that I have to do this and that? So yes, it does affect them a lot, and that's same goes back to our toilet as situation. We'd go to the Adelaide show and then go, okay, there's no toilets here, we have to go. And he's like, but I haven't been to the rides yet, I haven't been to the show bags yet. So it doesn't just affect one person; it affects the whole family. And if you're with a friend's dynamic as well, it's another family and another family. So it just doesn't affect the one person.
Beyond Plan managers don't just take charge of your NDIS plan; they empower you to take charge of your journey.
Their expert team is dedicated to seeing your NDIS plan unlock its full potential and seeing you thrive. I want to move on to your next project, if that's okay, because I want to leave time to sort of explore that. But I did just want to touch on, I liked how you shared the rights of the client, the participant, to move providers and not feel pressured to stay somewhere, but if you feel you want to move, that's an important thing for participants to know they can do, which isn't always super clear to them. It can get a little scary. Your new project, what are you working on at the moment, and what's the passion behind it for your son?
So we're working on creating a pathway for people with a disability to use their SDA funding, their Specialist Disability Accommodation funding, to actually purchase their own home.
And what is SDA?
So SDA is a line of funding that funds housing for people with a disability that have, so the house is actually purpose-built. So it can be for high physical supports, fully accessible. There's robust ones, and then there's also improved livability.
Cool.
But so many times we've got a client who's come to us and they use their SDA funding to pay a provider, and then the provider also charges them rent, and they're like, well, I'm paying them with this amount of money, and why am I getting charged rent as well? So we sort of came up with a whole pathway where we've got builders, loan brokers, investors, and that who are ready to go to actually help people use that funding to purchase their own home.
So instead of it being that you're renting an SDA off of a corporate group or a business, you're going, this is the participants' forever home.
Yep.
Is kind of what the goal is.
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
And they're owning the house with the backing of this organisation you look at building.
Yeah.
Probably with your son very much in mind.
Absolutely, yeah. So our biggest thing was we wanted to have a house, we wanted to have a trust fund, we wanted to have a car, wanted to have providers to do all of the care work for him. And then the Annie Smith incident happened. And that's like, that blew it all out of the water.
Can you just recall what the Amy Smith is?
Annie Smith. So,
sorry.
Anne-Marie Smith it was.
Anne-Marie.
Yeah, so she was...
Of course.
Yeah, everyone knows the story.
Yeah,
so,
we all know the story.
Yep. So, but that was our plan for Harry, and so and I just went, holy shit, what are we going to do now? It's like, so yeah. So basically, we want to set him up with his house. His house will be his house. It will be specifically built. We're getting him basically what they call a micro board to look after all of his affairs. So we're going to have different people looking into his affairs. There won't be one overarching person that deals with everything. It will be, you deal with his providers, you deal with his supports, you deal with the financial side. So we'll have people checking in on him all the time now. So.
And I'm guessing that level of care that directs what he needs isn't the default option.
No, that's right.
And you've had to kind of explore how that would sit.
Yeah. So basically that's where we sort of went, okay, this is what we want for us as well. But why are people with a disability still being charged rent when they are using funding to pay off someone else's loan when they can do that all themselves? So that's where we went. We want people to own their own homes and use that funding to create a future for them and their families.
That sounds amazing to me. Yeah. You know, I've heard stories of, supposed SDA homes where, like you said, they're paying rent for where they are. They're also getting the SDA funding. Plus, they're also being forced to use the support workers from the same company.
Yep.
So they're getting a triple banger of NDIS funds.
Yep.
And for what? Some of the homes aren't even what I would even consider to be even remotely accessible.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know how they're actually being qualified as SDA homes.
Yeah.
When people are weighing up the options for SDA, if they're eligible, how would they contact you and kind of go about that process? Google KYD-X?
Yeah, Google KYD-X. We've got email, which is support@kydx.org.au. Don't forget the hyphens.
Cool.
And just Google. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Sweet. Any other questions?
No.
Sorry, Damo?
No. I think we've had a good chat.
Yeah.
Thanks, mate. No worries. Thank you very much for the
invite. It's having you on, man.
Yeah, you too.
Appreciate your time and look forward to seeing what you get up to next.
No worries. Thank you.
Awesome.
Cheers. Bye.